Good morning. The Coast Guard and the Navy have been stopping cartel drug boats for decades. These are not fishing vessels. They are high speed narco subs and go fast boats designed to outrun law enforcement while carrying fentanyl, cocaine, meth, and weapons. Cartels routinely dump cargo, they fire on the authorities, and intentionally risk their own crews to evade capture. Since 2006, Coast Guard interdictions have seized hundreds of tons of narcotics. Just 1 year ago, a Coast Guard cutter intercepted over 11,000 pounds of cocaine off the Pacific corridor. These operations are dangerous and fast. The agencies involved use warning shots, disabling fire, and escalation protocols because the alternative is letting poison flood into the United States of America. That is the factual backdrop that Democrats refuse to acknowledge. Harvard, RAND, and DHS all confirm that the United States loses more than 70,000 Americans a year to synthetic drug overdoses, primarily fentanyl. The majority comes from Mexican cartels partnered with Chinese suppliers. Every interdicted drug boat directly prevents mass casualty level damage inside our borders. Now, combine that with the Democrats and the media trying to lecture Republicans about morality. They act stunned that these operations sometimes involve lethal force, even though federal law authorizes it when vessels ignore commands, flee, or endanger U.S. personnel. They pretend these cartels are confused boaters instead of transnational criminal groups with body counts that rival terrorist organizations. This is where the World War II analogy becomes brutally true. Imagine telling the Navy at Midway to stop their one hit because there were survivors on deck. That is the exact logic the media applies to cartel interdictions. And please don't tell me about declarations of war. The enemy is hostile, they're armed, and killing Americans at scale. But Democrats want a purity test mid-battle, as if the cartels care about the rules of engagement or civilian life. Republicans understand that stopping cartels requires force, persistence, and finishing the job. Trump understood it so well that he pushed joint operations with Mexico, expanded surveillance assets, and authorized targeting cartel infrastructure. Republicans understand that stopping cartels requires force, persistence, and finishing the job. Trump understood it so well that he pushed joint operations with Mexico, expanded surveillance assets, and authorized targeting cartel infrastructure. Democrats called it extreme because they genuinely believe stern language and press conferences accomplish something. They live in a fantasy where borders enforce themselves and criminals play fair. The research, it's pretty clear. Cartels kill tens of thousands. Drug boats carry the material that make it possible. The Coast Guard is the only line between those shipments and American streets, and they're not equipped like the United States Navy and the U.S. Armed Forces. And Democrats are still more worried about optics than outcomes overall. That is the disconnect. This is why the analogy lands, and that is why people who live in reality keep siding with Republicans and President Trump.
Drop it hard.